So Taurus, your monthly forecast for December begins with on screen now the event chart. The moon's in a tender part of your chart, the 12th house. Could make you reminisce as we go into the new month, or think very deeply about a close personal relationship, particularly with the sun diving deep in the atmospheric 8th house for you. But the host is very much about knowledge, so you could be thinking about certain associations, perhaps even certain investments. Your ruler Venus has moved into that area too. If you are in a relationship and you both want the same things from your future, I don't feel this month is going to necessarily knock you off course, but you could find yourselves chaffing a little bit, perhaps around your priorities. But if you are in a tie where you do have very different value systems, those could show up quite strongly. Perhaps it's just around your friendships. Maybe some of the people each of you hangs around with doesn't quite work. Perhaps makes you feel a little bit threatened in some way or another. The reason for this is there's such a lot of energy in the 8th house. That can be very intense. It can be very much to do with things like possessiveness, control, leverage, the dark arts, if you like. Not necessarily in your case, it may be what you find yourself receiving. And the reason why that energy can come up more in a more pronounced way is through the first couple of weeks of the month. Mars, the planet of passion, which is very passionate in the 8th house, is clashing badly with Saturn and Neptune in your 11th house of friendship. If you're single, it's possible that at Christmas function you could find yourself really drawn towards a particular person who's got quite an intense aura about them, but that makes them all the more intriguing. But if you are tempted by an illicit or clandestine relationship this month, just know it could have consequences. And it's not just Mars that clashes with Saturn and Neptune, it's also going to be the Sun in week 3, and then Venus is going to clash with them too. If there are secrets in a relationship that you're involved in, those too could surface. But if we go back to the start of the month, despite the moon being in a sheltered location, Mercury, the communicator, does start this month in your sector of relating. And your desire may be to connect well with people. And the full moon, which occurs on the 4th, is complex in a way because it may be around money that some kind of tension does start to show up, because the moon in Gemini is a very quick energy. For you, it's about the 2nd house, everyday money. So it may just be down to the festive budget when it comes to gifting. And because the nodal axis is applying to this particular lunation, the more emotional side of things, as much as the factual side, so it's almost like the perception is something that you need to discuss, because Gemini is very much about the conversation. And because of the energy of the Sun, Mars, and also your ruler Venus in your 8th house, if someone is evasive or does feel a bit controlling, that can create a lot of frustration for you. So if a relationship hasn't been working quite so well, and suddenly it feels that even over money you can't quite agree on what to do for Christmas, that may get you concerned about whether this will work for that longer term. However, Neptune does go direct on the 10th, which will help to dissipate some of the confusion, and Mercury moves back into the sign of Sagittarius on the 11th. Now, the great thing about Mercury in this part of your chart is it helps you to be more penetrative in your thinking, but details count. Sagittarius and Mercury can be a little bit counterintuitive for taking the time with details. It can be impatient, but on the 15th, Mars does move into an excellent location for you. But what I would say, as Mars is followed by the Sun later on the 21st, and Venus, your ruler, on the 24th, moving into Capricorn, if a relationship is just too enclosing, too restricting, too much drama, too much politics, of whatever kind of tie it might be. It could be around a group situation or some friends. If there's politics or backbiting, it's something in the last 10 days of this month you'll really want to separate yourself from and create a little bit more individual space and independence. Also, I think you could find yourself planning some travel earlier in the month that actually takes place later in the month. On the 20th, we have a new moon. But just before then, on the 17th, Mercury does emerge from its post-retrograde shadow, which does help if there is any bookings that you need to do. But this is a new moon, which ordinarily would see you go into the end of the year keen to really make the most of the resources you've got, or be very conscious of who you want to be much more invested in, and perhaps the situations you want to separate yourself from. But this one also is clashing with Neptune and Saturn, and because they're in the part of your chart to do with your higher values, your connection to others, your network, and some of those can just be strained, I feel. But part of it could be because Neptune can distort, it can confuse, and sometimes it can see us think the worst, particularly with Saturn there. If there are certain friends who are quite clingy, or perhaps a bit into negativity, energetically I think you can be much more conscious of those type of folks. So on the 21st, with the winter solstice, that's really reminding you that you're at your best when you can at times push outside your comfort zone. Your appreciation of what you know and regularity is the stuff of astral law. But over the last 7 years, with Uranus's help, and also further back to 2008 with Pluto's help, you have been experimenting a lot more, and you have a chance to do that in the last 10 days of this month. So if something has felt enclosing, just too bogged down, a bit heavy, you need a change of scene, you even want to spend Christmas in a different location, do you know, if you do, I think it will be like a breath of celestial air, because to surf the intensity and complexity of the first 3 weeks of this month, you do need robust relationships, robust boundaries. You need to know what you stand for and where you want to really give of yourself. And if that's not reciprocated in the way you really want and makes you think, will this work for the future? I think unfortunately, despite the turn of the year, there's a part of you that may want to enter into year 2026 much more in an escapist mode, creating much more independent space. So if people want a lot from you, they have to give you a lot, and I think that's the key early in the month. But they also have to give you permission to have a little bit of your own space too, and that's more of the picture as we come towards the end of the year. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive forecast, please see the link below this video. If you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll also get your life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that are played out in your life so far. Combination of the two will help you to plan your moves in the months ahead so much more effectively. 30% off, free gift of your general, love, Chinese and Indian written forecast for each of the 12 signs. Please see the link below for more.